Hey guys, it's Inferno from Dragonic Empire here with my Perdition Dragon Legion deck. So set 17 managed to give us both sets. Set 17 version E gave us both sets of the Legion pairs that we needed to finish the deck, which is very nice. So we are using the Dragonic Overlord, the Great Legion, along with the Vortex Dragon Legion. Which, Vortex Dragon, for you who don't remember, is actually a set 1 card. So yeah, he got a pretty good makeover and his effect got pretty vamped, actually. So pretty good. So obviously, to start things off with our grade 3 lineup, we're using 4 copies of the Great, along with 4 copies of Dragon. So the Great, he's got a really good skill, actually. You might call it great, haha. It's Cannon Blast 1, choose 2 cards from your hand, discard them. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked a rearguard, if this unit is in Legion, you may pay the cost, and then you can stand up all your vanguard and the Legion mate as well, which is really good. So it fits in the theme with Dragonic Overlord restanding, which is very nice. And it fits in the theme that Kagero like to attack the rearguards and maintain some board control. You might say it's like a better version of the Rebirth, because the Rebirth did the same thing with the downside of you had to lock your entire field. So that was a bit naff, I guess. But yeah, the good thing about this restand, it's always going to be at 20k at least when it restands. Factoring in a booster, it easily hits some very good numbers. So yeah, Legion is very powerful. And the artwork is really good on it. Dragonic Overlord. Gotta love that card. So yep, it's classic Dragonic Overlord, where you attack the rearguards and you get to restand and attack the vanguard, which is all well and good. So on to the next boss monster of the deck, which is Dragon. His skill is Counter Blast 2, choose 2 cards, choose a card, so it's a Persona Blast, but it can be the grade 2 as well. So you can choose either himself from your hand or the grade 2 version, which is Whirlwind Dragon. You can choose this and discard it, and you can retire up to 2 of your opponent's rearguards, and then deal 1 force damage to them, and that trigger, if they get one, doesn't activate, which is pretty mean. And his other passive skill is, during your main phase, when your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone, he gets plus 3000. So yeah, his skill synergizes very well with his passive skill, which is really good. But it's a nice throwback to the original Vortex Dragon, which was a Mega Blast, a Mega Blast which retired 3 of your opponent's rearguards. So this does a similar thing where it retires 2 but deals a damage. So it does 3 in a way. So yeah, when I'm playing around with this deck, I do prefer to ride the Great first, simply to whittle down their front row rearguards, and then use Dragon to do the final sort of kill when they're on 4 damage, push them to 5, and attack with quite a huge centre column, actually. So yeah, this deck works really well in conjunction. So on to the grade 2 lineup. We're using 4 Neoflame. He's the mate for the Great. So yep. And he's got the skill of, when this unit is placed on the rearguard until the end of turn, this unit gets Counter Blast 1. When your opponent's rearguard in the same column of this unit is put into the drop zone, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit and retire it. So what he's there for is, you call him to rearguard on the same turn you have Overlord the Great, or you Legion into Overlord the Great. Then you use Overlord the Great Legion to attack the same rearguard column that this one's in. So say like it's on the right hand side, you Legion Overlord the Great, you attack the rearguard on this side. So the front row unit gets retired because you attacked it, and then you can use his skill to Counter Blast 1, retire the one in the back row. So Perditions give that mechanic of sort of retiring full columns, so you've got control of the left and right wings in terms of columns. Not so much on the middle column, because you're kind of restricted on that. The only real means you've got to retire the thing behind the vanguard is really Dragon. So, but we'll get on to that. And he also does well with the Overlord's second skill, which I forgot to mention earlier, which is you get to choose one of your rearguards with the same name as the card as a unit in your vanguard circle, and retire it. So when this unit attack hits, you can pay the cost. If you do, choose one more of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So what that means is, if you say have a Neoflame or another Overlord the Great on a rearguard circle, and you say attack with the rearguard circle first, then attack with this one. If it hits anything, when this attack hits anything, you can retire your rearguard to retire one of their rearguards. So I suppose you can retire the thing behind the vanguard with that skill. So it's like a Kimnara effect where you get to 1-for-1 retire, which is pretty good, but you get the added pressure of. So you can add a little bit more pressure by putting one of these two on the rearguard circle when this guy's in Legion. So yeah, good overall effect. Playing 4 because I just like to be able to find them when I need them, and his effect isn't that bad as well. On to our next grade 2 is the Legion mate for Dragon Ute, 4 Whirlwind Dragon. He's also your 12k vanilla, well, 12k attacker when you've got a Perdition Dragon Vanguard. So yeah, it's pretty good. You can use it for the Persona Blast fodder, but most of the time you want to Persona Blast the grade 3 to retire 2 and deal damage. But if you're in a tight spot and you need to get rid of one of these to do the Persona Blast, it's always an option, which is all good. Last grade 2 is Menace Laser Dragon. So his effect is when he's placed on the rearguard circle. Yep. If you have a Vanguard with Perdition in its name, you can counterblast 1, and if you do, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit and retire it. So it's like Berserk Dragon, but with a bit more of a restriction on it, I suppose. So you could say it's like Berserk Dragon and Tagus put together. So you've got a decent retire mechanic, and with a grade 1, we'll get onto that now actually, it can cost you just a Soul Blast to retire, which is pretty good. So what this grade 1 does is Perdition Battler Malakol, or just call him Lasso Dragon. So yeah, what he does is when a unit in the same column as him gets retired, you got to remember that it has to be in the same column as this card though. You can Soul Blast 1 and unflip a damage. So what you can do is you call this first, then call this in front of it, retire something, and then Soul Blast 1 to unflip your Counterblast for this cost. So effectively you just retired something for a Soul Blast of 1, which is a pretty good combo. I'm only playing 3 because I can't find a 4th one, to be perfectly honest. Plus I think 3 seems to work okay for me at the moment. If anything, I would probably drop a Neoflame for 1 more Menace Laser, but at the moment this ratio seems to be working fine, so I'll stick with it. So onto our grade 1, been over this one. It's 4 copies of the Damage and Flipper. It's 7k booster as well, which is pretty nice. So yeah, during the main phase when you gotta be careful actually. It's during the main phase when this happens, so you can't use the great skill and then do the Soul Blast thing. Otherwise that'll be pretty insane. Yeah, when your opponent's rearguard in the same column as this unit is put into the drop zone, if you have a Vanguard with Perdition in its name, you can Soul Blast 1 and unflip a Counterblast to damage. Pretty good. Of course, our next grade 1, one of my favourite cards for Kagero ever, actually, is Dragon Monk Gojo. It's actually really good how he's been able to keep up with most Kagero builds ever since he came out all the way back in set 1 and the first Kagero Troll deck. And of course you're playing Legion, so drop and draw, really really good, and 7k booster as well. So I am playing 4 copies of it, so it's a really good first turn ride to get rid of anything you don't really need, good for hand fixing, good for all that stuff. And yeah, like I said, he's really withstood the test of time well. On to our next grade 1, I'm running 3 Perfect Guard in the form of the Perdition Perfect Guard. Mainly because I'm saving Barry for when the X comes out. So yeah, Barry is kind of in my main Kagero builds, my favourite Kagero builds. Not that I'm saying Perditions aren't one of my favourite Kagero builds, it's just that I'm saving this for the X when it comes out in the G boosters. But sentimentals aside, just playing 3 Perfect Guards is really really clutch at some moments, apart from against decks that say you can't guard with grade 1s, which suck. But for most of the things, Legion's about you've got a lot of power playing around nowadays, so you do need to be able to guard yourself effectively. And to that veil, playing 1 quintet wall as well. It's really good to use early on just to get yourself some Legion fodder in the drop zone, so you can actually Legion as early as you can, because that's what you ideally want to do with this deck. You want to Legion as early as possible. So that quintet wall helps to speed things up, and it gives you some easy guard early on if you need it, and it can come in handy later on if you need it. If anything, you will tend to end up dropping it for a perfect guard fodder anyway. So yeah, on to the last grade 1. 2 Calamity Tower Wyvern, which is the Soul Blast 2 draw card. Again, you're playing a Legion deck, so Soul Blasting 2 and putting some stuff in the drop zone to fuel Legion is really, really handy. And that extra draw is okay as well. The only reason why I'm not playing 4 more of these is because I don't think I have any more, for one. And secondly, it's only a 5k, so for the most part you want it behind the vanguard. If you put it in the left or right column, it's kind of meh. It's kind of awkward to make columns unless you have a Whirlwind Dragon in front of it or a grade 3 in front of it. So yeah, it's good, but yeah, it's just good. It's solid. It's a solid card, but I wouldn't run too many of them. So trigger lineup. We're on to our classic ratio again of 8 crit. 4 draw in the form of Gatling Claw Dragon, which here's another card that's withstood the test of time with Kagero. Really good. Gets you some soul fodder as well, so you can get some cards into your soul, along with a retire of a grade 0. Most grade 0 nowadays are really quite key to most decks, so being able to retire them is really, really handy. So yep, and of course our last trigger has to be 4 heals. So yeah, heals are game changers. You want 4 heals in your deck, so classic ratio of 8-4-4 there. And of course our starter is good old reliable Red Pulse Draco Kid. Yeah, Conroe would be better, but Conroe is banned as starting Vanguard, so he's like the next best thing. You can run the Perdition starters if you want to, but I personally like this one because you get to search out your grade 3s, and a lot of all the grade 3s, both of them, have persona abilities in the fact that you can retire 1 on the rearguard circle, retire something else, and this one is just straight up persona blast to do its effect. So getting additional copies of grade 3s is good. If you find that you don't need to use a skill, even as a Vanguard booster, because you're in Legion, you're still hitting for 24, which is still good enough. So yeah. And there's a card called Blaster Joker that exists, so you want extra grade 3s to Legion with. So yeah, Red Pulse Draco Kid is a very, very solid card. Can't fault him that much. So yeah, the only downside he used to have was he is a 4k booster, but nowadays if you have Legion, 24 is not a bad number to be hitting. So yeah, that was my Kagero Perdition Dragon Legion deck. Let me know what you think in the comments below. See if we can get them all in shot. Probably. You can try. Yep. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because that helps us out a lot. And we'll see you next time.